Walter Parazaider, a co-founding member of the legendary rock band Chicago, who remained an active and defining presence in the group from its earliest beginnings in 1967 all the way through to his retirement in 2017, has died on Wednesday, according to a public announcement made by members of his family. His passing marks the end of a long and deeply influential life in music, one that stretched across decades of cultural change, shifting sounds in rock history, and the evolution of live performance itself. In the final chapter of his life, he had been living with Alzheimer's disease for approximately 6 years, a condition that gradually affected his memory, his daily functioning, and ultimately his overall health. Over time, this illness became a quiet but persistent part of his existence, shaping his later years with increasing difficulty until it eventually led to his death. His journey with Chicago spanned half a century, a remarkably rare length of time for any musician to remain connected to a single band, especially one that continued to tour, record, and evolve across generations. Within that long creative run, Parazaider was widely recognized as one of the foundational musicians whose contributions helped define the identity of the group. He played reed instruments throughout his career with the band, demonstrating a versatility and consistency that became central to Chicago's distinctive sound. Among fans, he is perhaps most easily remembered for his memorable flute solo in the song "Color My World," a piece that has remained one of the band's most emotionally resonant and recognizable moments. Yet while that flute performance stands out in popular memory, his musical presence was far more frequently associated with the saxophone, an instrument through which he added depth, texture, and emotional range to countless performances and recordings. From the earliest stages of the band's formation, even before Chicago became the name it would later be known by, Parazaider occupied a unique and defining role. In the original conceptual phase of the group, when the idea of blending rock with a full horn section was still taking shape, he stood as the only horn player involved. This positioned him in a singular role, bridging traditional rock instrumentation with the broader, richer possibilities of brass and woodwind sounds. It was through his vision, musical instincts, and willingness to experiment that the idea of integrating a full horn section as equal members of a rock band began to take hold. At the time when Chicago Transit Authority was being formed in 1967, this concept was considered highly unconventional, even radical, as most rock bands of that era relied almost exclusively on guitars, bass, and drums. The notion of giving horns a central, structural role in a rock ensemble challenged the expectations of the genre, and yet it was this very innovation that would go on to define Chicago's signature sound. Even in the present day, the idea remains relatively uncommon in mainstream rock, underscoring just how forward-thinking that early vision truly was. News of Parazaider's passing was shared by his daughter, Felicia Parazaider, who posted an emotional message on Facebook during the early hours of Wednesday morning. Her words carried the weight of both personal grief and public farewell, capturing a moment of intimate loss made visible to a wider audience. In her post, she expressed the deep pain of not being able to return in time to be with her father during his final moments. She wrote, "I didn't get back in time. My father, my hero, is gone. He went peacefully about 20 minutes ago," conveying the suddenness and finality of the moment in simple, direct language. She described the emotional shock of arriving too late, a feeling that often accompanies unexpected loss even after a long illness, where the end still arrives with a sense of abruptness. Felicia also shared that she serves as a minister and described herself as a radical sacred activist, framing her perspective in spiritual and reflective terms as she processed the loss of her father. In her message, she reflected on a sense of intuition she had carried, a feeling that she might not make it back in time, despite her efforts. She wrote about how in those final moments, it was only her mother and father together, just the two of them, mirroring the earliest chapter of their relationship, when life first brought them together as a couple. This detail carried a deeply symbolic meaning for her, as she described how the beginning and the end of their shared journey seemed to align in a quiet and almost poetic way, with only the two of them present at both the start and the conclusion of their story.